Have you ever wondered why, after awakening to a deeper truth, life suddenly feels empty, almost as if all the meaning drained out of it? You thought enlightenment would set your soul on fire, but instead, it left you staring into silence. I remember meeting a woman who described it perfectly. She said, "I used to fight for success, for recognition, for love. Then one night, after a wave of insight, everything collapsed. The illusions vanished, and for a moment it felt divine. But days later, I couldn't care about anything. Not winning, not failing, I just felt nothing." Her story isn't rare, it's the hidden shadow of awakening. It's like walking through a forest at dusk. At first the path is clear, golden light spilling through the trees, but then without warning the light fades, the colors dim. You look around and nothing feels alive anymore. The birds are silent, the air feels still, and you wonder, did I take a wrong turn? Or is this silence trying to tell me something? This is the paradox no one warns you about. Spiritual awakening isn't always a blazing sunrise. Sometimes it's the quiet death of everything you once believed gave you purpose. The goals, the roles, the chase for validation, gone. And what's left is a hollow stillness, a sacred void that feels more unsettling than liberating. But what if that emptiness isn't a mistake? What if it's the exact doorway your soul has been waiting for you to walk through? A threshold Carl Jung hinted at when he said that enlightenment doesn't come by imagining light, but by making the darkness conscious. Could it be that the numbness after awakening isn't the end, but the beginning of a deeper transformation? You wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing because the same dream keeps returning. A face you've never seen, a place you can't quite describe, but it feels more real than the daylight you wake into. You tell yourself it's just a dream, yet something inside whispers, it's more than that. Or maybe you glance at the clock and see 11:11 again and again. At first you smile thinking it's coincidence, but then it happens on receipts, license plates, street signs, even the exact time a stranger texts you. It feels like the universe is winking, but the more it happens, the more you wonder, is this random or am I being spoken to in a language I was never taught? Then there are the physical sensations, that sudden shiver when no wind is blowing, the tingling across your skin when you're alone in a quiet room, the heavy weight in your chest as if your body is carrying a secret your mind can't yet understand. You go to doctors, you search online, but no explanation feels complete. It doesn't feel like illness, it feels like a message. And what about the intuition that pulls at you? The gut feeling that makes no logical sense but proves right again and again? Like when you knew not to take that road and later discovered there had been an accident, or when you felt an inexplicable sadness before a phone call delivered bad news. These invisible threads weave into your daily life, unseen by others but undeniable to you. People around you might shrug, laugh, or dismiss it. You're just overthinking, it's coincidence. But deep down, you feel it's not. It's as if life itself has begun speaking in code, and the more you notice it, the more unsettling it becomes. Because once you see patterns, you can't unsee them. Once you hear the whispers, silence feels deafening. Carl Jung had a name for this: synchronicity. He believed these coincidences are not accidents, but mirrors of the inner world, reflected by the outer one. A symbolic dialogue between your unconscious and the universe. And when it begins happening more often, it's not proof that you're losing touch with reality. It's proof that reality is trying to touch you. But here lies the pain. The more signs you receive, the more isolated you can feel. Friends don't understand when you talk about numbers following you or dreams that predict real events. They roll their eyes when you mention sensing energy in a room. Slowly, you stop sharing, holding these mysteries inside like fragile glass you don't want to drop. You begin to feel like a foreigner in your own life, as if everyone else is speaking a language of logic while you're hearing something far older, far stranger, and infinitely more real. And in that isolation, questions grow louder. Why me? Why now? What am I supposed to do with this knowledge? You try to hold on to your old routines, work deadlines, family obligations, your favorite hobbies, but they no longer feel the same. A subtle fog lingers, dulling the color of everything. It's as though your soul has seen behind the curtain, and now the play on stage feels meaningless. Yet, is it really meaningless? Or is the universe stripping away your distractions so you can pay attention to the message that's been there all along? This is where the mystery deepens. Because what if those dreams, those numbers, those sensations are not random at all, but the opening notes of a conversation between your soul and something greater? And if that's true, then the question is no longer, am I imagining this? But something far more unsettling. What exactly is being asked of you when the universe won't stop speaking in signs? There is one sign that has followed humanity across every culture, every religion, every mystical tradition, the repetition of sacred numbers. At first glance, they look harmless. 1111 glowing on a digital clock, 333 flashing on a receipt, 777 carved into the randomness of life. To the rational mind, these are accidents, coincidences, mathematical inevitabilities. But to the ancient mystics, these were never accidents. They were signals. The Hebrews spoke of numbers as living codes. The Bible itself hides meanings within them. 40 days in the desert, 7 seals, 12 tribes, 3 days between death and resurrection. In these stories, numbers were not simply counts, they were messages wrapped in symbols. The desert was not just sand. The 40 was transformation. The 7 was completion. The 3 was rebirth. And Carl Jung, centuries later, confirmed what sages already knew. When these repeating patterns invade your everyday life, they are mirrors of your unconscious. They mean that your inner world has reached a point so powerful, so urgent, that the external world bends to reflect it. Synchronicity, he called it, but mystics had a simpler word: signs. Imagine you are walking through your day heavy with questions. You feel lost, numb, perhaps even abandoned by the fire you once carried. And then, without planning it, you look at your phone. 1111. Something stirs in you, a shiver you cannot explain. That is not a number, that is a whisper. A whisper saying, stop, pay attention, a door is opening. The hidden meaning of 1111 has been guarded in many traditions. For some, it is the number of gateways, a mirror of 2 pillars standing side by side, the seen and the unseen, the physical and the spiritual. For others, it is the number of alignment, the signal that your soul is recalibrating to its true frequency. And for Jung, though he never spoke of 1111 directly, it was the perfect image of synchronicity, the union of the inner psyche with the outer cosmos. The reason this matters to you now is because awakening often strips you bare. You no longer chase the illusions. You no longer crave the masks. But when the mask is gone, what is left? Silence, stillness, that terrifying, sacred void. And in that silence, the universe sends a pulse, a rhythm, a sign. The numbers are not there to entertain you. They are there to remind you you are not lost. You are in transition. Consider the story of the prophet Elijah. After fire, earthquake, and storm, God's presence was not found in the noise. It was found in the whisper. That whisper is what the numbers are. Not a loud command, but a subtle call. And the more you see them, the more urgent the call becomes. Think of it. How many times have you brushed off these moments as coincidences? How many times have you ignored the tug in your chest, the chill in your spine, the impossible timing of events that lined up like a script written just for you? What if ignoring them is the very reason you feel stuck, unmotivated, hollow? Because your soul refuses to go back to sleep, and the signs are its language. And here lies the revelation most people never hear. These signs are not random breadcrumbs scattered on your path. They are activations. They switch on layers of your consciousness that were dormant. They force you to stop relying on logic alone and begin trusting the invisible architecture of your life. When the ancients spoke of angels appearing, when saints wrote of visions, when mystics described hearing the voice of God, they were pointing to this same truth. Reality itself will bend to awaken the soul when the time has come. What looks like coincidence is actually choreography. What feels like chance is sacred design. But this knowledge comes with responsibility. Once you recognize the signs, you cannot dismiss them. To see and ignore is to reject the invitation. To see and accept is to step onto a path that will dismantle who you thought you were. And that, my friend, is why so many after awakening feel paralyzed, because the signs are calling them not to chase goals, but to surrender to transformation. You are not lazy, you are not broken, you are being rewritten. The signs are the proof, the silence is the canvas, and the emptiness you feel is not failure, it is initiation. This is the first secret. The universe speaks in symbols, and when you awaken, the volume of that language increases. Dreams, numbers, synchronicities, they are not decoration. They are instructions, coded in the fabric of your everyday life, pointing you toward the deeper truth of who you are becoming. If this resonates with you, if you've seen these numbers or felt these whispers, know that you are not alone. You've found a community here, a circle of seekers who see beyond coincidence into the hidden order of things. That's why I invite you to like this video and subscribe to this channel. Not just as a button to click, but as a way of saying yes to this circle. This community of those who dare to look behind the veil, because the signs are only the beginning. The real mystery lies in what happens when you finally follow them. And the question is, when the universe keeps speaking, will you dare to answer? There was a man named Daniel, a quiet soul who never considered himself spiritual. He worked in finance, lived in a grey apartment, and measured his worth by deadlines and promotions. On the outside, he was disciplined and respected. On the inside, he was exhausted. He lived by the numbers, but the only numbers he cared about were in his bank account. Then, something strange began to happen. It started small, like a ripple in still water. Every time he glanced at his phone, it was 3:33. At first, he laughed. Coincidence. Then it followed him. On receipts, hotel room doors, even a random streetlight flickering 3 times when he passed. He brushed it off until one night. Daniel had been working late, his office silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights. He leaned back in his chair, eyes burning from spreadsheets, when his computer suddenly froze. Across the frozen screen, the time blinked at him. 11:11 p.m. He stared, a chill crawling up his arms. Something about it felt alive, as if the number itself was looking back at him. He shook his head, grabbed his coat, and went home. But sleep would not come. That night he dreamed of a vast desert. The sand stretched endlessly, and in the sky above, 4 black birds circled in silence. He walked until his legs ached, until he saw a door standing alone in the middle of the desert, a door without walls, glowing faintly. Written across it, in burning light, was 333. He woke up gasping, his heart pounding as though he had run a marathon. From that night forward, the signs intensified. Dreams, numbers, and an unshakable sense that something, or someone, was trying to reach him. He grew restless. Food tasted bland. Music no longer stirred him. His old ambitions felt like ashes. His friends told him to relax, to stop overanalyzing. But Daniel couldn't escape the feeling that life had shifted into another gear, one that didn't follow logic. Then came the breaking point. One evening, his phone rang. His sister was crying on the other end. Their father, who had been in remission for years, had collapsed. Daniel rushed to the hospital, the world around him a blur of streetlights and sirens. As he entered the sterile white corridor, his eyes caught a digital clock above the nurse's desk. It read 11:11. The same numbers that had haunted him now stared back at him in the moment of his deepest fear. His father survived the scare, but the experience shattered something inside Daniel. He sat by the hospital bed, the machines beeping like a fragile heartbeat, and whispered, "What do you want from me? Why won't you leave me alone?" That night, while dozing in the chair, Daniel dreamt again. The same desert, the same door, but this time it opened. Inside was not a room, but a vast sky filled with stars. A voice, neither male nor female, whispered, "You are not who you think you are. Follow the signs." When he woke, he wept. Not from sadness, but from a strange, aching relief. For the first time in his adult life, he felt he wasn't alone. The numbers weren't haunting him, they were guiding him. Daniel left finance months later. He didn't run away recklessly. He simply knew he couldn't keep wearing the mask. He moved into a smaller home, started writing music again, and began volunteering at a shelter. People thought he had lost his mind, but Daniel felt something else. Alignment. He said the signs never stopped, but they shifted. Instead of haunting him, they encouraged him, like road markers on a new path. And here's the truth that his story reveals. The signs will not stop until you pay attention. They are not punishments. They are invitations. Invitations to step out of the false life you built and step into the unknown one waiting for you. Daniel once confessed, "I thought those numbers were mocking me. Now I know they were saving me. Without them, I would have kept living half a life." His story is not unique. It is a mirror of what countless seekers experience in silence, the subtle whispers, the impossible patterns, the dreams that refuse to fade with morning light. Perhaps you've lived moments like these too, but kept them hidden, afraid no one would believe you. But here in this space, you are not alone. If you've ever felt guided, haunted, or awakened by a sign, whether in numbers, dreams, or strange coincidences, I want you to share it. Write your story in the comments. I read them, and in future videos, I may even share some of your experiences, because your testimony could be the light someone else needs to find their way through the darkness. Because if Daniel's story teaches us anything, it's this: the signs are never random. They are arrows pointing toward a destiny that the ego cannot comprehend. And yet, there is an even deeper mystery, one that Jung hinted at, and the mystics knew, about what happens after the signs. Because when you follow them, something inside you doesn't just shift, it dies. The question is, are you ready to face what must end before the new can begin? If the first sign is written in numbers and patterns, the universe tapping on the glass of your daily life, the second is more intimate, more unsettling, the language of the body. For centuries, mystics and healers spoke of the body as a sacred vessel, not just of blood and bones, but of messages. The Psalms say, "The heavens declare the glory of God," but so too does the body, whispering truths through sensations most of us ignore. In fact, some of the most profound spiritual awakenings begin not with visions of angels or thunderous revelations, but with something far quieter. A tightness in the chest, an ache in the stomach, a sudden wave of chills when no breeze is blowing. Carl Jung believed the unconscious doesn't only reveal itself in dreams or symbols, it reveals itself in the flesh. Anxiety, numbness, exhaustion, or strange surges of energy are not always signs of sickness. They are often the body's way of carrying messages the mind is too distracted to hear. Think about it. How many times have you said, "I just feel it in my gut," or "I knew it in my bones"? These are not metaphors. They are the body's mystical vocabulary. Take the story of Miriam, a nurse who had always trusted logic. She dismissed intuition as superstition until the day she felt a sharp pain in her chest every time she entered the hospital ward. Tests showed she was healthy, but the pain returned, like clockwork, only in that place. Months later, she realized the ward was where her own mother had died years before. The body remembered what her mind had buried. That pain was not random. It was her soul's alarm, telling her to face the grief she had hidden, or consider how many people fall sick immediately after leaving a toxic job or relationship. Doctors call it stress. Mystics call it purification. The body, freed from constant armor, finally releases what it has held. In those fevers, headaches, or bone-deep fatigue lies a sacred truth. The body is not betraying you, it is cleansing you. But here is the hidden meaning of this second sign. The body is not just a messenger, it is a compass. When you awaken, your body begins rejecting what no longer aligns with your soul. Foods that once comforted you may suddenly feel heavy. Crowds that once thrilled you may leave you drained. Conversations that once entertained you may feel like poison in your throat. This is not weakness. This is alignment. Your body becomes incapable of lying, and this is where the practical technique begins. The ancients called it listening prayer. Others call it body scanning, but its essence is simple. Stop treating your body as a machine and start treating it as scripture. Here is how you can begin tonight. Find stillness. Sit or lie down in silence without distractions. Close your eyes, breathe slowly, inhale deeply through your nose, exhale softly through your mouth. Let your breath become an anchor. Scan with awareness. Move your attention gently from the crown of your head down to your feet. Don't force anything. Simply notice. Where is there tension? Where is there warmth? Where is there emptiness? Ask the question. When you find a sensation, ask silently, "What are you trying to tell me?" Then listen. Do not judge the answer that arises, whether it's a memory, an image, or simply a word. Honor the message. Write it down. Breathe into it, or act upon it if it feels aligned. If your stomach knots every time you think of a person or place, that is not coincidence. That is your compass pointing you toward truth. Do this daily, even for 5 minutes. With time, you will see patterns. The whispers of your body will become louder, clearer, almost like an internal guidance system. And the numbness that often follows awakening will begin to lift, not because life suddenly makes sense, but because you are learning to trust the subtle instructions that your soul has been embedding in your flesh. The beauty of this practice is that it belongs to no religion, no doctrine. Anyone can do it. You don't need special training. You don't need to be a monk or mystic. All you need is the courage to pause and listen. The body is the temple, and the temple never lies. But here is where the mystery deepens. Numbers and patterns awaken the mind. Bodily signs awaken the soul's compass. Yet there is a third kind of sign, one so profound, so rare, that most people ignore it entirely. It does not come in numbers. It does not come in sensations. It comes in something so strange, so unsettling, that even the bravest seekers hesitate to face it. The question is, will you dare to confront the sign that almost no one talks about? The one that doesn't just guide you, but completely transforms your destiny. There is a sign more powerful than numbers, more intimate than the whispers of your body. It is the one sign most people fear the most because it cannot be measured, predicted, or easily explained. It is not loud. It is not dazzling. It is silence. Not the silence of an empty room, but the silence that arrives in the middle of your life, like a storm that takes all sound with it. A silence that is almost violent in its stillness. After awakening, this is often the most shocking experience. The sudden absence of desire, the absence of clarity, the absence of the old fire that once carried you. You look at your goals, your dreams, your to-do lists, and they feel hollow. You wait for motivation, but none comes. You think you are broken, but you are not. You are standing before the deepest sign the soul can give you. Carl Jung hinted at this when he wrote, "Enlightenment is not imagining figures of light, but making the darkness conscious." This silence is not emptiness. It is the womb of a new creation. The void is not the end, it is the altar. Think of the gospel. After Jesus was crucified, there were 3 days where nothing happened. Heaven was silent. The disciples were scattered, numb, hopeless. And yet in that silence, something was already shifting. Resurrection does not arrive with trumpets. It begins in stillness, in the unseen, in the holy pause. That is the prophetic truth of the silence you feel after awakening. Quantum physics points to the same paradox. Between particles, there is a field, a vacuum that scientists once thought was nothing. But deeper studies revealed that this nothing is not empty at all. It is seething with potential energy, the birthplace of every star, every atom, every breath you take. What looks like void is, in fact, infinite possibility. The mystics knew this long before science caught up. The silence is sacred potential. This is why your old motivation vanishes. The ego cannot build in this space. Its tools do not work here. Only the soul can move in this silence, and the soul does not chase, it waits. It listens, it births. And here is where I need to pause, to speak heart to heart with you. This channel, this space, exists for seekers like you who are navigating this strange and holy territory. I create this not for profit, but out of love, out of passion for truth. Every like, every subscription is more than a number. It is a way of strengthening this community, of telling the world, we are here, we are listening, and we will not walk this path alone. If you feel this message resonating with your own silence, I invite you now to like this video and subscribe. By doing so, you are not only supporting this work, you are joining a circle of souls who dare to honor the silence as sacred. Because the silence is not punishment, it is preparation. Ask yourself, why does the universe strip away everything you once thought gave you meaning? Why does it leave you in this desert of stillness with nothing to hold on to? It is because the self you once were must die, so that the self you truly are can live. The silence is the cocoon. The ego panics here because it feels like death, but the soul knows this is transformation. The caterpillar dissolves into formlessness before becoming a butterfly. The seed breaks in the dark soil before pushing toward the light. The night stretches long before dawn, always, always silence before rebirth. And here lies the most profound secret. If you can surrender to this silence, if you can let it cleanse you without rushing, you will emerge with a fire that is not the ego's, but the soul's. A fire that cannot be extinguished by failure, by rejection, or even by death itself. A flame that does not flicker when the winds of life blow, because it is fueled not by circumstance, but by eternity. This is the climax of the journey. The void is not your enemy. It is your passage. The silence is not empty. It is God's language. And if you dare to remain in it, something beyond comprehension begins to awaken inside you. But here is the mystery that very few are prepared to face. Once the silence has done its work, once the soul begins to burn with this deeper flame, you are called to return to the world, not as who you were, but as who you were always meant to be. The question is, what will you do when the silence finally breaks and the voice of your true self calls you into the light? All along this journey, we have been uncovering the secret language of the soul, the numbers that appear like whispers in the fabric of your day, the body's sacred compass that refuses to lie, and the silence that arrives not as emptiness, but as holy ground. These are not accidents, they are invitations. They are the universe leaning closer, pressing into your life with messages too important to ignore. If you are watching this and recognizing yourself in these signs, understand this. Nothing about your path has been random. The dreams that haunt you, the strange sensations you cannot explain, the patterns that repeat until you notice them, they have all been preparing you. They have been shaping you into someone who can carry a new kind of light into a world that desperately needs it. You may have thought you were broken. You may have thought you had lost your way. But what if this numbness, this fog, this strange pause in your life is not proof of your failure, but proof that you are in transition? Like a seed buried in the soil, you are not dead. You are being planted. Like the silence between Good Friday and Easter morning, you are not abandoned. You are being prepared for resurrection. Carl Jung believed that individuation, the journey of becoming whole, is the true purpose of life. And individuation always begins with signs, with shadows, with silence. It begins when the ego loses its map and the self begins to speak. If you are here, listening now, it is because the self in you is stirring. The deeper you, the eternal you, the one who knows truth by resonance, not by proof. And here is the hope I want you to hold close. You do not walk this path alone. There are thousands of souls, seekers just like you, scattered across the world, feeling these same signs, questioning their sanity and longing for meaning. This community exists to bring us together, to remind each of us that what feels strange is actually sacred, and what feels like loss is actually birth. So I invite you now, not just as a viewer, but as a fellow traveler on this path. Leave a comment with your name and your city. Let yourself be seen. Let your voice echo in this circle. In our next videos, I will share some of your names, because your presence matters, your story matters, and your journey can become the torch that lights someone else's darkness. And if this message has resonated with you, if it has reminded you that your signs are real and your path is holy, then please like this video and subscribe to this channel. Not because it's routine, not because of numbers, but because every subscription strengthens this community of seekers. Every like tells the algorithm of the universe that there are people hungry for truth, for depth, for awakening. This channel is not built for profit. It is built out of passion, out of love for the hidden mysteries that can heal our world. By joining, you help keep this flame alive. So breathe deeply and let this truth settle in your heart. The silence you carry is sacred. The patterns you see are sacred. The sensations you feel are sacred. Your entire life has been leading you here, to this very moment, where you can finally say yes to becoming who you truly are. Because this is not the end of your awakening. This is the beginning of your becoming. And the mystery does not stop here. In fact, the deepest secrets, the ones that prophets hinted at, that mystics guarded, and that science is only beginning to touch, are still waiting to be revealed. The only question is, will you be ready when the next revelation comes?